Hello there and welcome to another Atypical Philosopher. I'm going to talk to you about shock horror, not about the nativity, even though it's around Christmas time at the time I'm recording this video. I'm going to talk to you about pro-life and how I am changing the way I call the pro-life community. I don't know, I like the word community there. Pro-lifers. I'm not going to call them pro-lifers. I'm going to call them anti-choicers. And the reason for this is because I don't think they are pro-life. I think they're pro-birth and they are anti-choice. But I don't think they are pro-life. I'm going to read out the words. It's the viral meme of Sister Joan Chittister. And she said, beautifully, always sums up my position on this, which is I do not believe that just because you're opposed to abortion that makes you pro-life. In fact, I think in many cases your morality is deeply lacking if all you want is a child born and not a child fed, not a child educated, not a child housed. And why would I think that you don't? Because you don't want any tax money to go there. That's not pro-life, that's pro-birth. We need a much broader conversation on what the morality of pro-life is. Absolutely, hands down, one of the most incisive and concise quotes about this whole subject. And here's a funny thing. I'm sad, you know. I'm sure there are some lovely pro-life people out there somewhere, but my extensive experience in the world of blogging and online debates and the huge amounts of writing I've done over a dozen years is that whenever I write a piece on abortion, my comment threads go mental. And I'm infested with people who appear to hold all of these traits: racist, xenophobic, fascist, pro-gun, pro-death penalty, etc., etc., etc. The list is long and pretty nefarious. It's just really predictable. I follow, for example, on my blog, a Texas abortion piece with one on Brexit, and those same pro-lifers are just being horribly racist on both of them, saying the same things on both of them. There's absolutely nothing pro-life about the pro-life movement. And yes, I am referring to a lot of people who have commented on my blogs, and as I say, there may be some lovely pro-lifers out there who don't share those traits, but it just seems to me from my experience, and you could call this anecdotal, but the pro-life lobby goes together with the pro-gun and the anti-immigration and the pro all things horrible, it seems. I'm going to read you a couple of quotes from a Guardian article from a couple of years ago. I'll put the link down in the description below. But I think these quotes really sum up also where I'm coming from here. Well, here goes. So in a new poll shows what really interests pro-lifers, controlling women. That's the name of the article. A new poll shows what really interests pro-lifers, controlling women. The reporter states, quote, according to their own survey responses, anti-abortion voters are hostile to gender equality in practically every aspect. According to self-identified pro-life advocates, the fundamental divide between those who want to outlaw abortion and those who want to keep it legal comes down to one question: when does life begin? Anti-abortion advocacy pushes the view that life begins at conception. The name of their movement carefully centres the conceit that opposition to abortion rights is simply about wanting to save human lives. A new poll, the article continues, shows that's a lie. The pro-life movement is fundamentally about misogyny. A supermajority Periundum survey released this week divides respondents by their position on abortion and then tracks their answers to 10 questions on gender equality more generally. On every question, anti-abortion voters were significantly more hostile to gender equity than pro-choice voters. So we see in a 2013 PRI poll, though the data finds in reverse for Catholics, this is me speaking now, and I would like to see the latest on that, but the quote is, among white evangelical Protestants who say the term pro-life describes them very well, 64% oppose stricter gun control laws compared to 33% who favour them. Nationally, nearly 4 in 10 or 38% Americans live in a household where at least one person owns a gun. White evangelical Protestants, 57%, and white mainline Protestants, 55%, are the most likely religious groups to report that they live in a household where at least one person owns a gun. End quote. So what this shows is that pro-lifers, or anti-choicers, anti-abortionists, aren't so pro-life in the fact that they're far more likely to live in a household that owns a gun. Now, thirdly, amongst women, this is a quote from another article, amongst women, gender role beliefs and the desired number of children contribute significantly to opinions on legalized abortion. There is a clear correlation between strong traditional gender role beliefs and a woman's pro-life views, while those in more modern gender roles, educated women, working wives, families with shared responsibilities, support the pro-choice movement. That's interesting. Fourth point from yet another article, some of these are journal papers. Historically, Christians have been some of the most susceptible individuals to supporting a pre-existing racial bias by influence of the church. Christianity was built on a premeditated belief of symbolic colours. For instance, in the church, white is seen as a colour of renewal, hope and prosperity. All of these are the symbols of heaven. In contrast, black has been a representation of the devil, death and hate, and not coincidentally being transferred to people's beliefs on skin colour. These beliefs in Christian churches led to the formation of black and white churches because of the proximity belief, the belief that sin was contagious through physical proximity between people. This, combined with the inherent evilness of blackness, led to a physical separation of blacks and whites within the religion, which was followed by a social distance created between the two races. As previously stated, religious values have been shown to negatively influence attitudes towards abortion, thus linking negative racial attitudes to opposition for abortion. There is a demonstrated correlation between conservatism, both political and moral, with racism in the United States. Negative correlations have been found between education and the societal causes of racial inequality. Also, negative correlations between education and racism have been found to be causes of racial inequality. Positive relations with racism within research have been found in variables such as premarital sex, extramarital sex, gay attitudes, political conservatism, and individual responsibility for racial inequality. These correlations provide for a direct correlation between those who have negative racial attitudes or a higher racial distance and those with conservative beliefs. One can further infer that those with racial prejudice are also pro-life due to an inherent connection with conservatism. So what that journal quote shows is that that people who are racist are more likely to be pro-life. That's a lot of talk there, a lot of speak, but it's saying, you know, negative racial attitudes correlate well with pro-life, anti-abortion attitudes. Now, a fifth one that I will pick here, but again, there's so many sort of journal article references I can make. But in the 2014 PPRI American Value Survey, or was that PRRI? American Value Survey, looking at views on the death penalty, states white evangelical 59% and white mainline Protestants 52% express majority support for the death penalty, with 34% and 40% from these groups respectively preferring life without parole. What that kind of is seeking to show is that, you know, these kind of pro-life evangelical Christian types are far more likely to be anti-life in many aspects, forgiveness in that aspect, or understanding of the causal variables involved in serious crime there, such that they support the death penalty, they support having guns, they're far more likely to be racist, so on and so forth. And the problem is, as a liberal, all my ideals oppose the conservative ideals. And the conservative is more likely to be religious, advocate for guns, be racist and xenophobic, and generally support the things I suppose. And there are some pretty interesting abortion graphs that can be found at the Pew Research Centre, and I'll try and put some of those up on the video as well. So where is a pro-lifer when we are considering social welfare policies to actually protect and nurture young life from all sectors of society? Or is it life is mainly a middle class white human thing? Now, there's another sort of meme quote that's been going around. So in the Netherlands, abortion is freely available on demand, yet the Netherlands boasts the lowest abortion rate in the world, and the complication and death rates for abortion are minuscule. How do they do it? First of all, contraception is widely available and free. It's covered by the National Health Insurance Plan. Holland also carries out extensive public education on contraception, family planning and sexuality. Of course, some people say that teaching kids about sex and contraception will only encourage them to have lots of sex, but Dutch teenagers tend to have less frequent sex starting at an older age than American teenagers, and the Dutch teenage pregnancy rate is 6 times lower than in the US. When you put all of this stuff together, this lack of support for policies that stretch beyond birth, education, child welfare, policies that give the whole family and parents and single parents and all people, assistance where they're needed, and young people assistance where it's needed, and universal healthcare, so that the access to healthcare isn't either a sort of postcode lottery or some kind of dependent on the income that you earn. When you start looking at all these things and see that people who are pro-life are generally anti all those things because they see them as socialist fascism or some utter preposterous nonsense, you're just left thinking that pro-life people are not pro-life, they are pro-birth, they're anti-choice. In most cases, they're anti-life. And so I'm going to not call pro-lifers pro-life anymore. They are anti-choice, because I don't think it's a pro thing. Pro sounds positive. They are not pro-life. They are not a positive position. They are an anti-position. They are anti-choice. So I'm just going to change the way I label them to reflect a far more negative position that I think they generally and genuinely hold. Anyway, I'd be interested to hear what you think, question everything, and see you next time.